Amen. The question I want to consider this morning is, what does trusting in adversity look like? Okay. I would like to use Psalm 89 as our text. Psalm 89. I would say that this is a good example of a mature response in the midst of adversity. Psalm 89. The heading of this psalm says, a Mashiel of Tifton the Ezrahite. What's a Mashiel? That is a teaching poem. It's instructive. There's something to be learned. Who's Tifton the Ezrahite? We don't know much about Mr. Tifton. He appears one time in 1 Kings 4:31. You don't have to turn there. But he is used as a comparator, so you can know how wise Solomon was. It's describing Solomon was wiser, and then it gives a list of these wise men, and including that was Tifton the Ezrahite. And so most likely he was a peer of Solomon or a contemporaneous living individual. So maybe he was in David's day, maybe he was in Solomon's day, maybe he was a little beyond Solomon as far as living longer, but he was someone that at that time you could say, man, Solomon is so sharp, he blows Ezra out of the water, or Tifton the Ezrahite, and he was a very, very wise man. Right? So this is not a dig against Tifton. It's just showing you how much the Lord had blessed Solomon with, because the Lord blessed him with more wisdom than any person that had ever lived, and the only one who's going to surpass them was Jesus. All right? So, Tifton the Ezrahite, writing an instructive poem. And it's a fairly lengthy psalm, but let me just give you the context. We'll see it later. The context is something has gone wrong. Things are bad. A promise that God had made seems like it's been broken. And this is from man's perspective. We're describing the downfall, most likely, of a nation, a king who had a promise that your throne would endure forever. It looks like it's been cast to the ground, and everyone is beating up on us, and we're just losing. Okay? That's what the Psalms is going to be reacting to, and yet I want you to see that in this, let's see, what is it, 52 verses, only 8 of them are focused on the present distress. What he's going to focus on, the bulk of it, is on God, on God's character, and God's capability. I'm using his capability and character. I know those can be grouped in different ways, but what I want you to think about is his focus on God's character, of his faithfulness, of what his promises have made and how they're sure, even though from this moment it doesn't look like it's going well. And then also his capability, because it's one thing to have someone who's got good intentions and yes, that they're going to follow through on a promise, but if they don't have the ability to do it, then you've got reason for concern or doubt. And so that's really what I want you to look at this, is thinking about how are we going to respond in adversity? How does this individual, this very wise man, seeing this great distress, what does he focus on? Fair enough? All right, so verse 1. I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. With my mouth will I make known thy faithfulness to all generations. To what? I've already told you we're in the midst of hardship. You're going to discover that down about verse 38. He starts off saying, I'm going to sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. These mercies, this has the idea of the Lord's loving kindness. He has a loving kindness. Mercies are the demonstration of that. I'm going to praise God for his mercies right now, yes, and forever. All right, he is stating how he's going to respond from the very beginnings. I'm going to keep on singing. Are things hard? Yes. But he is going to sing. Sing of the mercies of God. Sing of his goodness, his loving kindness. With my mouth I will make known thy faithfulness to all generations. Now let me just give you a brief about singing. We are commanded to sing. This is not a suggestion. If you go read like Psalm 46, 47, I didn't write it down. There's one that in like two verses. There's 3 different commands. Sing unto the Lord, sing unto the Lord, sing unto the Lord. This is not optional. Singing unto the Lord is good, not just good for you, but it is bringing glory to God. In the New Testament, we're instructed to sing one to another, right? Having the word of God dwelling in us richly, right? Teaching and admonishing one another in songs and hymns and spiritual songs, letting, grace dwell in our hearts. Singing to the Lord with grace, right? This is part of what we're doing, even when things are hard. Now, your natural response is that things stink. I'm going to pout, right? Any y'all pouters? I'm a pouter, right? Things go bad, and I get sullen. I get, down in my, feelings, and I stop singing. I stop praising. I start getting into despair and discouragement and despondency. Has God changed? No. Has his character changed? Has his mercies changed? No, he doesn't change. He is still worthy of praise even when things are hard, right? He's got the big picture. We just have the itty-bitty little individual slivers. Right? You remember the old school film, or actually filming, you could see the one square, that one little picture? That's kind of like our view of the moment, where he's not only got the whole strip, he's got all the strips of time all before him. He knows exactly how it's going to shake out. He knows exactly what he's working on, and we don't. Okay? Is he worthy of songs of praise all the time? Yes. And this is the mature response. The immature response that one times you and I fall into is that we get pouty and we stop singing. And we wait, well, Lord, when you fix this, then I'll start praising you again. That's not the right response. All right? I will sing of the mercies of the Lord forever. Right? This is one aspect of heaven, is singing. Singing of the mercies of God for forever. And with my mouth I will make known thy faithfulness to all generations. Normally when things are going bad, your carnal man says, I would really like to complain right now. Anybody that I'll talk to, you will never believe what's happened to me. And I'll sit there and I'll hold your ear for 45 minutes because I'm going to give you every brutal detail of what's going on. We're here. I'm going to keep praising the faithfulness of God to all generations, right? To the old and to the young. What's coming out of my mouth is I'm continuing to acknowledge God's still good. God hasn't abandoned me, right? Because that's where we get some mistakes there. We start accusing God of something. You've let me down, right? If you're not doing what I think you're doing, then you must not like me anymore, or you don't care about me, or you're just messing with me, right? Those are all wrong-headed, approaches that we can fall into as immature believers. But the mature response is that he doesn't change. I'm going to keep praising for his mercies. Even if I don't understand, I'm going to keep praising and declaring in my conversation how faithful he is. Is he faithful? Yes. Okay. So part 1, keep singing. Next. For I have said, mercy shall be built up forever. Thy faithfulness shalt thou establish in the very heavens. All right, verse 2 is describing something the psalmist has said in the past. This is a confidence that he has had, that he's declared to somebody. I've said, mercy shall be built up for forever. Thy faithfulness shall thou establish in the very heavens. All right? Recall your prior boastings and confidences of God in the midst of hard times. You're confident. Now, can you brag too hard on God? No, right? That's the one thing you're allowed to brag in. Have confidence in God. When you're not seeing it, remember what you used to say. Has the thing changed? No. Your perception may have changed, but he hasn't changed. So he's recalling his prior confidence. Now, if someone is putting their faith and confidence in God, are they going to be ashamed in the end? No. Right? To be ashamed means that I've bragged on something and now it's fallen through and it can't be, come to completion, and I look dumb. I look embarrassed, right? You won't get there if your confidence is in God. So the psalmist is going back to something I've said before. Mercy shall be built up for forever. Thy faithfulness shall thou establish in the very heavens. So you got this idea of mercy coming up and your faithfulness of God in the heavens, right? This wonderful tower of strength, all based on his character, right? But then he gives you the reason for why he said that. He goes to God's word, okay? Verse 3 and 4, the psalmist here, Ethan, is quoting what God said to David in 2 Samuel chapter 7. I have made a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn unto David my servant. Thy seed will I establish forever and build up thy throne to all generations. Selah. He's saying this is God's word. He made a promise with his chosen servant David, right? King David, right? Ethan, as a peer of Solomon, would know David. He knew what God had said to him. I made a covenant with my chosen. God chose David, right? Did David volunteer to be king? No. God had rejected Saul for disobeying him, and he sent Samuel. You're going to go down to Bethlehem, and you're going to line up all of Jesse's kids, and I'm going to tell you which one. And, the tall, older one comes up. And Samuel's like, all right, new king, right? Our other king, he was really tall and impressive. And God says, nope, not that one. They go through the whole list, and Samuel's like, have you got any more? And the guy's like, well, just the youngest, but he wasn't even important enough to bring. He's watching the sheep. Go get him. Right? And God said, this is the one. Because he's not judging by the exterior. God chose David to be a king, and he made a covenant with David. I've sworn unto David my servant, thy seed will I establish forever, and build up thy throne to all generations. David, the throne that you're going to leave after you're dead, it's going to continue to be sat on by your seed, by your descendants. What does every dynasty who's ever existed across every world want? Their rule to continue, right? They want it to stay in the family, right? To continue rule. And here, David had this promise. Your rule through your seed will continue. Selah. Promise. Selah means pause and think about that. Right? If you're in a stanza of music, you get into a moment where it's like, all right, rest, and then continue. Okay? Verse 5. And the heavens shall praise thy wonders. All right, so we're keeping singing. We're recalling our prior boastings of God. Why are we boasting? One, because of his word, what he said, his promises. And two, now we're going to look at God's character. His character and his capabilities. We're looking at God himself. We're in the midst of hardship. And rather than looking at the individual problems around, you're going and looking at the solution and admiring him. Right? The one who is capable, you are focusing on him. The heavens shall praise thy wonders. Think about that. The sky, the sun, the moon, the stars are going to praise God. Is he worthy of praise? Yes. If the heavens are going to praise, then what should you be doing? Praising him, right? The heavens shall praise thy wonders. Is God capable of doing wonders, of mighty works that are beyond comprehension, beyond explanation, beyond everything? Is he capable? Yes, so much so that the heavens themselves are going to praise them. The heavens shall praise thy wonders, O Lord. Right, when we're reading Psalms and you get an O, right? O something. The O is telling you who the audience is. I'm actively talking to the Lord. The psalmist is talking to the Lord. The heavens are going to praise you, O Lord. L-O-R-D in all caps, Jehovah, the eternal God. Thy faithfulness also in the congregation of saints. All right, so the heavens are praising thy wonders. In the congregation of the saints, they're going to praise your faithfulness. So it's not only your capability of what you're able to accomplish, but your character. Faithfulness, steadfast, trustworthy, unchanging. All right, are men inherently trustworthy and unchanging? No, men are not. But God is, right? He is the standard for faithfulness, and it's going to be something that the congregation is praising him. Praising him here in this congregation, yes. Ultimately, there's a congregation, there's going to be a general assembly of the firstborn of God in heaven, and that's going to be an amazing praising of his faithfulness. All right, so looking at his character and his capability, Can you compare anybody to him? No. Verse 6, for who in heaven can be compared to the Lord? All right. If you've got baseball players and you line them up with their stats and their height and their batting average, and they've got all stats for everything. I don't understand it all. But you can kind of compare and you can pick who's going to be the best. Who are you going to line up against God? There ain't nobody. No one has his stats. No one has his height and breadth and strength and wisdom and might. Who are you going to compare? Nobody. Why do you keep singing? Because he's alone. He is unique. He is the only one. Who in heaven? All right, in all the heavens, right? There's angels. They're mightier than men. There's celestial creatures. We don't even know all about them. Cherubims and seraphims. Who of them can be compared to God in the heavens? Nobody. Okay? Who in heaven can be compared to the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty? All right, of the mightiest here on earth. Who could possibly be compared to God? Nobody. Nobody. Who can be likened unto the Lord? God is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, right? The saints recognize God's authority. They recognize his power. They have his capability. And so they fear him. Again, this is not the fear of he's going to squish me like a bug, but this is reverence and awe and love and honor that's worthy. And he recognizes it, right? So within the saints, he's greatly to be feared because he is so powerful and because he is so good and great and lovely. And to be had in reverence of all them that are about him. I want you to think about, where do we have access to his very throne room? Well, what's in his throne room? You have the assembly of those that have already gone on. You've got the assembly of his angels. And if you look in Daniel 7, there's a little fun little nugget. You do some math on the angels. He's got like 1 million angels there. And he's in great reverence from all of them. This is who you're focusing on. In the midst of adversity, you're singing to him, you're praising to him, you're making confidence, you're recalling your confidence in him, you're looking back to his word, and you're looking at his character and his capability. Okay? Oh, Lord of hosts. Lord of hosts, right? Sometimes we just throw away these titles. Lord of hosts. This is the master of the greatest army, right? The one who doesn't even need an army has the greatest army. You're the Lord of hosts, all hosts, who is a strong Lord like unto thee. All right, so who possibly can compare to your strength? All right, you got your resources, you got your strength. Who can be compared? Nobody. Or to thy faithfulness round about thee. All right, who is possibly as faithful and secure as God? The idea in all this is you're ruling out someone else to go to in this problem. There's no one else. No one else is strong. No one else is capable. And certainly no one else is just and good and honorable round about. Nobody. Now, beyond those two aspects of strength and faithfulness, there's something else about God that makes him unique, is that he is the creator, of everything. Thou rulest the raging of the sea. All right? When the waves thereof arise, thou stillest them. He is the unique creator of the sea. He is the ruler. Now, is it just limited to the sea? No, it's all creation, but that is just something. Can any man, just a man, go out on a red flag day at the beach and say, I would like to get in the water today, green, right? Where you just calm it down. No man can do that. Now, there's one who is God, who was a man, who came, and he did do that. There was another demonstration that Jesus was unique. When the winds or waves are going crazy, he could say, peace be still. And guess what? Well, they were still. And that was just a little demonstration of his divinity. But God has that over all creation. This is who you're looking to in the midst of adversity. The one who's capable, right? All of creation is subject to him. He made it. And he rules it. Thou rulest the raging of the sea. When the waves thereof arise, thou stillest them. Verse 10, thou hast broken Rahab. What's Rahab? That is a figurative name for Egypt, right? It means boasters. So you've got this powerful nation. What did he use to break them? At the very end, he used the sea, right? I'm going to open it up, something that shouldn't happen, not naturally, and I'm going to use it to drown an entire army. Right? If you were going to draw up your battle plan, is that how you're going to kill your enemy? All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to lure them into the ocean, and then we're going to drown them. Right? You as a man can't do that. Right? When God brought judgment down on the whole world the first time, what did he use? He used water. He made so much water that everybody drowned, except for they that he chose to spare. When he brings judgment upon the world the second time, what's he going to use? Fire. It's all going to melt with a fervent heat. Right? The water you can dry out. Fire is gone. You have to have a new heaven and a new earth because this is the end of it. Right? This is his power. Thou hast broken Rahab in pieces as one slain. All right? This nation, it's like taking a clay pot and a baseball bat. Just shattered. Not a chance. All right? As one slain. Like it's a dead body. Thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm. He's talking about God's capabilities here by hearkening back to what God has done. Right? He's just the same today. We were singing about that, right, David? That he's just the same today. And we're looking back at the things that God has done. Has God changed? No. So he's just capable of doing those things as well. So you're reminding yourself of how strong he is, how capable he is, how everything that reports to him. These are good reminders when you're in the midst of hard times. Right? Thou hast broken Rahab, you've broken Egypt in pieces. As one that is slain, thou hast scattered thine enemies with thy strong arm. The heavens are thine. All right, if I go out here and buy a little patch of dirt, and I pay enough money and I get a piece of paper and someone says, I own that dirt. Anybody ever tried to buy the sky? All right, well, those are my aerial rights. You can't fly a plane. Well, you can have some argument. But we're talking about the one who owns all the sky. All right, not just the visible one, but like, space, however far it goes out. Beyond the farthest star, he owns it all. They're thine. And the earth also is thine. Everything here, everything above and everything beneath. As for the world and the fullness thereof. That fullness is a catch-all. Right? It means not only the dirt, everything contained on the world. Right? He is the unique creator, ruler, and owner of the entire universe. Right? When you're borrowing someone's stuff, it's really nice to have the owner's permission to do things, right? If I'm borrowing your car and I'm going to drive it to Atlanta and come back, you really don't want me to go mud bogging, right? If I'm going to change the plans, I really want to have the owner's express permission to do something, right? He is the owner of all this. And so when you're in the midst of all this, who do you need to be going and seeing? The owner. All right? The owner. The heavens are thine, the earth also is thine. As for the world and the fullness thereof, thou hast founded them. You made it. You set it up. You're the creator. Can anyone else claim to be the creator? No. In fact, all men got is to deny that there's a creator. They say, well, this just happened. Boop. Boom. Yeah. The north and the south, thou hast created them. All right, so you got extremes here. All right. As far north as you can go, God's created it. As far south as you can go, God's created it. All right. Tabor and Hermon shall rejoice in thy name. Now, if you don't know Mr. Tabor or Mr. Hermon, those are mountains. One's roughly equal with Mount Carmel, and the other one's in the far north of Israel. Mountains are going to praise God. Do you think that we ought to have some boldness in praising God if the mountains are going to be singing louder than us? Is he worthy of praise? Absolutely. The mountains shall rejoice in thy name. Is God's name worthy of being rejoiced in? Right, because what comes with his name is who he is, his character and his capabilities, right? He's a faithful God. He's not a God of injustice, not a God of fickleness or of pettiness, right? That would be a man-made God, but a perfect God, a holy God, a God of love and mercy and truthfulness and justice. This is the God that you serve, of how good he is and also how powerful he is. His name, that the mountains themselves shall rejoice in thy name. Thou hast a mighty arm, strong is thy hand, high is thy right hand. Now, are we literally describing God's, an arm, a body part? This is metaphorical language to describe the capability, right? To have a strong right arm means that you're able to do stuff, right? Generally, if you've got a strong right arm, you're able to win, you're able to have victory, you're able to accomplish things. If you look at God versus Egypt, did God win? Did he accomplish things? Did he do exactly what he wanted to, the way he wanted to, so that Everybody knew who his name was. And that's what's repeated in Exodus over and over again. It says, so that you'll know that I am the God. That you'll know, whether it's talking to Moses or to Israelites or to Egypt or the gods of Egypt. They're not even real. They will know that I am. All right? Verse 14. Justice and judgment are the habitation of thy throne. All right. I want you to visualize the throne room of God. Think about that last day when the books are open. There's going to be this judgment. It is a judgment based on justice, righteousness. This is not an unjust judge who's going to ignore the law, who's going to bend it, who's going to allow the wicked to go free. Justice and judgment. That's the foundation, right? This is something good. This is something dependable. And yet it doesn't stop there. That's the habitation of thy throne. Mercy and truth shall go before thy face. Mercy and truth. It'd be one hand. This would be just scary if it was just justice and judgment. But yet mercy and truth shall go before thy face, right? The loving kindness of God. There's a mercy that precedes in his presence. There's a truth that precedes his presence. Let me give you a hint there. The embodiment of mercy and truth is Jesus Christ. All right? Literally the act of mercy and truth, right? I am the truth, right? He has come and delivered his people through that. It goes before God's face. It's in his very presence, right, of what he has accomplished. So this has all been focusing on God, right? For all these verses, right? 5 through 14, we're focused on God's character, God's capability. And then you're going to look at the impact upon God's people in verse 15. Blessed is the people that know the joyful sound. All right, this joyful sound, this is a fun word. If you look it up, it literally means the alarm. But the context of that is that you're blowing the alarm on the trumpet for victory. This is the shout of the joy. It's because you've won. All right, think about Jericho. The walls come tumbling down, and the shout that comes up is because they're about to have a victory. Think about the shout after they're done. This is the joyful sound. Blessed is the people that know the joyful sound. There will be people who hear the last trumpet. It'll be abject terror. Right? They don't know the Lord and they hate him. But for those who love him and fear him, when you hear that, that's a shout of joy, of victory. For those, they're blessed. They shall walk, O Lord, in the light of thy countenance. What's his countenance? His face. Right? To be able to walk in the presence of God, the light, right? When Moses was around God for a little bit, do you know what happened to his face? It shone. Like there was like an illumination coming out of his face, and that was just from him being around God. Now imagine God himself, where he is light. I mean, there's no sun in heaven, right? In the new heaven and the new earth. The sun is God, right? The illumination is God himself to walk in the presence of his light. That's the end result for these people who know the joyful sound. In thy name shall they rejoice all the day. What will be the end of heaven is eternal rejoicing in the name of God. Can we start that now? Yes. And in thy righteousness shall they be exalted. Whose righteousness? God's righteousness will exalt his people, right? His people aren't in heaven because his people were so righteous. But it was God's righteousness that lifts them up. This is the righteousness of Jesus that was put upon us by the shedding of his blood. They shall be exalted. They shall be lifted up. Why? For thou, again, we're still talking to God, for thou art the glory of their strength. Where do we tend to think our strength is? Somewhere in ourselves. But for these people that know the joyful sound, that are going to rejoice all the day in the name of the Lord, they know that the real glory, the real grandeur of any strength that they have, it's God himself. Right? You're in the midst of hardship, right? Where is your strength? It's in God. Where are we looking at? Towards God. And in thy favor, our horn shall be exalted. Horn is a symbol for power, for authority, right? There's a lifting up of God's people by God's favor. Okay? Why? For the Lord is our defense, and the Holy One of Israel is our King. All right? Who are you trusting to protect you as the defense? God himself. Who is the King? The Holy One of Israel. You know, there was a devil one time that talked to Jesus and said, I know who thou art. Thou art the Holy One of Israel. Are you come to cast me out before the time? Right? I think he wanted to go into some swine. You can look at that in Mark 1:24. The Holy One of Israel. Right? There's another name for Jesus. He is our King. Right? It's going to shift a little bit in 19 through 37. What we're going to look at very specifically in 19 through 37 is an expanded conversation between God and David. What God had said. This is all going to be quoting God. It's not recorded anywhere else. If you go look at 2 Samuel chapter 7, you'll see these kind of main points. But this is prophetically giving you a more understanding about what God was intending and saying in this moment about this conversation, right? The summary was over there in verses 3 and 4. I've made a covenant with David. I've sworn unto David my servant. Thy seed will I establish forever and build up thy throne to all generations. That's kind of like the two-verse summary. 19 through 37 is going to be this expanded promise of what God said in relation to David and this throne. And I won't hide the ball. I'll try and tell you what it means beyond the psalm here. Then thou spakest in vision to thy Holy One, and saidst, I have laid help upon one that is mighty. I have exalted one chosen out of the people. I have found David, my servant, with my holy oil have I anointed him, with whom my hand hath established, my arm also shall strengthen him. All right? Now, in 2 Samuel 7, the context is David wanted to build a temple. And initially, Nathan the prophet, Nathan, said, sounds good, boss. Do what's in your heart. And he was leaving, and God sent a message to Nathan, said, turn around. Go tell him what I said. And basically the answer is that you can't. All right? Your child will, right? Some seed will. I'm going to give him peace. You've had war all the days, but in the midst of all that is going to be this promise that Nathan is relaying about what's going to happen with David's throne, and that it's going to continue. And so we're going to see this expanded promise to him. I have laid help upon one that is mighty. All right. So God is already calling David, by himself, mighty, but he's put help upon him. I've exalted one chosen out of the people. Exalted. He raised him up. He found him in the sheepcotes, right? That's another name for the sheepfolds. You weren't even an indoor boy. You were outside working with the sheep as the youngest son. I've raised you up, elevated you to be the king over the whole country, right? I found David, my servant. I have found him, right? This is God speaking. I have found David, my servant. With my holy oil have I anointed him. What did he send Samuel to do to him? Pour oil on him, right? Designating him that God specifically had chosen him for this special purpose. With whom my hand hath established. All right, so if you want to have a kingdom be established, it means that you're now recognized as a ruler. It says, God saying, I established him. I made him king. My arm also shall strengthen him. This is something that God said going forward. I've only started it. I've established him. Going forward, I'm going to continue to strengthen him. The enemy shall not exact upon him. What does that mean? When you lose fighting to somebody else, you have to pay them money. All right? Tribute, taxes, whatever. He's saying, for David, you're not going to lose. You're not going to be the one who has to take concessions and pay out to the enemy. They won't exact from him, nor shall the sons of wickedness afflict him. He's not going to have the persecution on all sides and lose from their enemies. Right? These are great promises. If you're a king and you're being promised that you're going to win, you're going to be strong, you're not going to lose, you're pretty excited about this, right? But what's in the middle of going on right now? Hardship. It seems like these things aren't happening. So he's going back and seeing what God has said. All right. The enemy shall not exact upon him, nor the sons of wickedness afflict him. I will beat down his foes before his face. That's a pretty cool promise. If you're a king from God's face, I'm going to take your foes, and you're going to get to watch them be beat down, watching as they're in front of you. Plague them that hate him. But my faithfulness and my mercy shall be with him. All right. Again, we've had that pattern there, faithfulness and mercy. I'm already singing of the mercies of the Lord. With my mouth, I'm making known thy faithfulness to all generations, mercies and faithfulness. Here you've got the promise from God, my faithfulness and my mercy shall be with him. And in my name shall his horn be exalted. Again, the authority of this king is going to be raised up higher in my name, my mercies, my faithfulness. I will set his hand also in the sea, his right hand in the rivers. All right, so you've got a literal geographic boundary there where if you reach out, think of Israel on the left-hand side, and you've got the Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and then you reach over here, the Jordan River, or up to the Euphrates River. This is roughly the maximum boundaries of what was promised in Canaan. It says, I'm going to give it to him. I'll set his hand in the sea and his right hand in the rivers. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father and my God and the rock of my salvation. Also, I will make him my firstborn, higher than the kings of the earth. He's going to be a king over kings. He's going to outrank them. My mercy will I keep forever. My mercy will I keep for him forevermore. My covenant shall stand fast with him. His seed also will I make to endure for forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. Right? These are some great promises. It sounds like the ones after David are just going to continue to rule and continue to rule and continue to rule because God's made this promise. He's made this covenant as the days of heaven. Verse 30. If his children forsake my law and walk not in my judgments, if they break my statutes and keep not my commandments, then will I visit their transgression with the rod and their iniquity with stripes. He's promising to chasten them, to discipline them. But even this is an act of mercy because unlike what he did to Saul, where he withdrew his mercy and grace completely, he says, I'm done with you. He says, your descendants I'll teach, I'll chasten. Nevertheless, my loving kindness will I not utterly take from him, nor suffer my faithfulness to fail. He says, my loving kindness is going to continue even in those chastenings. My faithfulness is not going to stop or abandon you, even if they disobey. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that has gone out of my lips. Once have I sworn by my holiness that I will not lie unto David. All right? God's saying, I'm not going to break this promise. I'm not going to change it. And in fact, he's swearing a solemn oath. Right? The practice of swearing an oath was you'd swear by something was greater. What's greater than God? Nothing. So he had to swear by himself. He said, once have I sworn by my holiness, by God's own holiness, I'm saying that I will not break this oath. I will not lie unto David. His seed shall endure for forever. And his throne as the sun before me, right? As long as this world continues to exist, the sun's going to keep coming up. He says that's how long David's throne's going to last. It should be established forever as the moon and as a faithful witness in heaven. So you got sun and moon as witnesses of this covenant. Selah. This is what the psalmist is hearkening back to, these very wonderful and explicit promises. And yet, in the moment, it feels like God hasn't followed through. Okay? Verse 38. But thou hast cast off and abhorred. Thou hast been wroth with thine anointed. He said, you've been angry. You've cast us off. We had all these great promises, but you've been angry. You've seen us as a disgusting thing. You've been angry at your anointed. You've made void the covenant of thy servant. It's like you've rejected this covenant. Thou hast profaned his crown by casting it to the ground. So at the time he's writing this, either it's happening right now, or as a prophet, he's seeing it happen in the future, which is most likely what I think is happening. He's seeing that there's going to be a time when the crown of David is going to be sitting in the dirt. You've broken down all his hedges. All right, what's the purpose of a hedge? To protect the things inside. If I have a nice grape vineyard and I don't want the wild animals coming and eating the grapes, I plant a hedge around it. All right, so the protection around Israel, he says, you've taken it all down, not just a little bit. You've taken it all down. You've brought his strongholds to ruin. What's a stronghold? It's your fortress. It's your castles. It's your strong cities, right? Think about Israel. You got various cities in different locations. You got some with big walls, some with little walls, some with no walls, right? Your strongest locations are in ruins. Thou hast set up the right hand of his adversaries. We were talking about the power of God's right hand. He says the enemies, you've made their right hand stronger. They're winning. They're winning the battles. Thou hast made all his enemies to rejoice. If your enemies are rejoicing, why are they rejoicing? Because you're losing. Thou hast also turned the edge of his sword and hast not made him to stand in battle. All right, boys, when you're testing the weapons on forged in fire and it doesn't go straight and just kind of turn sideways, if you were to thwack somebody with the flat side of a sword, is it going to do anything? It may sting a little bit, but it's not going to kill him, right? The idea is that God, even as you're fighting, it's like God is turning your blade so that you're going to lose. Can't stand before your enemies. It means you're running away scared. this sounds like a bad time, right? We're talking about this is hardship, right? And he's describing this of God. Either you're causing this or you're allowing it. These are things that are actually happening. And we've got all these promises. Thou hast made his glory to cease. Verse 44. And cast his throne down to the ground. The days of his youth thou hast shortened. Thou hast covered him with shame. Now, what is he literally talking about? Because if we look back at the Kings and Chronicles, we're trying to figure out where's the timing where this would make sense. Now, in David's own life, was there a time when his throne was very heavily damaged? Yes. That was when Absalom staged a coup, and he had to flee from Jerusalem, and he had to go across the Jordan River, and later they'd have one battle before he'd win, and he'd be able to come back and be king again. Now, that was significant. That was because of David's sin. That was a consequence of it. But was that the loss of all his strongholds? Were all the hedges about it? Was that his enemies being set up? On all the No. That was just one kid who, rebelled against him. Now later, in Solomon's day, Solomon got into gross idolatry and started worshiping other things and building, altars and things within Jerusalem. And for that, there was a promise that said in his son's day, the nation would be split in two. Right? 10 of the tribes would follow someone else. And the name of that guy who they followed was Jeroboam. And Solomon's son, who happened in his day, was Rehoboam. And so there would be, fighting in between those two. But even then, you don't see all the enemies around Rehoboam having this victory, not losing all of his cities. Egypt came and they did whoop up on him, and they had to pay him, all the gold in the treasury and from the temple, and they have these awesome gold shields that Solomon had made to decorate within the temple. We had to get rid of those, and we had to replace them with some brass ones. But even then, that's just like one enemy, and you still got all your cities standing. So even that really doesn't fit this. And if Ethan is alive, in David's day or Solomon's day or Rehoboam's day, those were kind of your range. But if we're looking at this as he's seeing this as a prophet seeing the future of what's going to happen, and God does show them, he's most likely seeing what happens at the end of Judah, right? When Babylon is coming in, they've lost all their strongholds. They've lost all their cities. Moab is attacking them. Edom is making fun of them. The Philistines, everybody around is getting a piece of this fallen nation. And they go away into captivity. And at that point, who's sitting on the throne of David? Nobody, right? That's the last king. It's a break in the line. All the others, with Rehoboam and everybody in between, regardless of the bad times that were coming, there was still a king sitting there in Jerusalem. But in the captivity, there is no king. And after the captivity, so fast forward another 70 years later, they come back. Guess what's not put back on a throne? Not a king, right? You have a governor and you have some, Zerubbabel and whatnot, but there's not a king. And so if you're a prophet, in Solomon's day, and God's showing you this future of when all the strongholds are burning and smoldering, and there's no king sitting there, and you, Lord, these promises that you've made, I don't understand them, right? How discouraging. So what does he do? Right? What does he do? Verse 46. This is what he does. He doesn't argue that God's been unfair. He doesn't argue that God, you've changed. God, that you're being unjust or unrighteous. He started off by I'm singing about your mercies and faithfulness. And so the question is, Lord, how long? How long? I know your mercies and your faithfulness are still there. How long? Wilt thou hide thyself for forever? Shalt thy wrath burn like fire? Does he really think God's going to hide himself for forever? No. But it may feel like it to us. Right? For forever, for a man, right, in our lives are very short. And that's what he's going to say here is that, remember how short my time is. Lord, I'd like to see your mercies and your faithfulness demonstrated again now, because I don't have much time. Right? Men don't live very long. Right? If you don't realize that, it's true. Remember how short my time is. Wherefore hast thou made all men in vain? Lord, you've made us all of this very transitory nature, very short lifespans. That's how you've made us. What man is there that liveth that shall not see death? Is there any man that's been born that's not going to see death? He's like, that's the end for all of us. Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of the grave? Right? Is there any of you who by your strength of mind or power or whatever can somehow say, nope, I'm not going to die today? Right? No man can do that. Now there's a God man who was able to deliver himself from the grave, right? And after 3 days he took his life back. He said, I can lay it down, I can take it back again. But of just men, Lord, it's just how long? Let it be soon. Because soon I'll be gone. Lord, where are thy former loving kindnesses, which thou swearest unto David in thy truth? Remember, Lord, the reproach of thy servants. How I do bear in my bosom the reproach of all the mighty people, wherewith thine enemies are reproached. Wherewith thine enemies have reproached, O Lord. Right? There's a mocking going on of your people and of your name, and I'm bearing it, I'm hearing it. Lord, remember them. Remember your mercies. How long? Remember when will they show up? And remember this wrath that's heaped upon us by your enemies, wherewith they have reproached the footsteps of thine anointed. They're making fun of your anointed. They're mocking his path. It looks like it's been cast down. He doesn't understand. And you know what? He doesn't. It doesn't come. The answer doesn't come in this. He doesn't get to see the end. He ends the psalm with, blessed be the Lord forevermore. Lord, I don't understand. I'm still waiting on your loving kindness to reappear, to follow through on these promises, but I'm going to bless your name right now. I'm going to continue to praise right now. You are not promised to be able to understand all that God is doing. Now, in this particular context, we can go back and we can look and see, what was God doing? He was talking about something far bigger than just a physical throne and a little nation in the middle of the East. The throne of David that's going to endure forever, right, has gone from this line tracking down through David, but it picks up with the final iteration, the final king who will never abandon that throne that's been given to him, and he will have it for forever, which is Jesus, the Christ, the King. And so in these verses that talk about one who is found and anointed, on one hand, yes, we're talking about literal David, but on the other hand, we're talking about Jesus. That he was the one who was anointed with the holy oil of God. He was anointed with the Holy Spirit, right? That without measure. Whose God's arm has established and strengthened. The enemy shall not exact upon him. All right, is there an enemy that is going to defeat Jesus? No, right? He's sitting on the right hand of God, waiting until all of his enemies are put under his footstool. And we were looking at Joshua about what it looks like when the king has conquered an enemy so bad that they come and put their foot on their neck. You lose. That's what we're waiting for, right? No enemy is going to be able to tax him. The son of wicked shall not afflict him. I will beat down his foes before his face and plague them that hate him, right? Jesus is going to win. There is not a doubt about it. And for those who know the joyful sound, right? They're going to walk in the countenance of the face of the Lord. They're going to be there. They're going to see the light and glory of the sun, and it's going to be amazing. This is looking at a bigger picture, but Ethan didn't get to know all this. This wasn't revealed till far, far later. All he saw was these are the promises, and from his understanding, it seems like, Lord, you're not following through. But yet I'm still going to praise you. I'm going to focus on your character. I'm going to focus on your capability, and I'm going to continue to bless. I'm not going to get pouty. I'm not going to turn away. I'm not going to say, well, God, you just done me wrong, or you're not following up on your end of the bargain. It's beyond your understanding, but Lord, how long? Lord, remember, I'm but dust. I'm not here for very long. My life is but a vapor. I would sure like to see. I would like to see your loving kindnesses now. But even if they didn't happen in his lifetime, and for those who were born in the captivity period, right? You lived and you died and you didn't see it, right? Jesus' fulfillment of all these promises is over a long, long, long arc, bigger than one individual man's life. He will cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation, right? My God, and my Father, right? We heard Jesus talk about the Father. He came to do his will, right? The words that he had were not his own. They were the Father's. He's crying, This is my Father, my God, the rock of my salvation. I will make him my firstborn, as Jesus described as the unique firstborn of God. Not a created entity, but the eternal God, the eternal Son of God, right? He's my firstborn. I've declared it, and declared the firstborn from the dead, right? Of the resurrection. Higher than the kings of earth. What is one of his titles in Revelation? King of kings. Not just a king. He's the king of all kings. My mercy will I keep for him forevermore, and my covenant shall stand fast with him. There's a covenant made between the Father and the Son before the world ever began. And that covenant won't be broken. That's the covenant that the people gave to the Son, that the Son is going to come into the world and redeem, and in his time he does, that they will be with him in glory. So he told his disciples that I'm going to go and prepare a place for you. If I go, I'm going to come back and receive you to be where I am. This is all part of the covenant, that promise that the Father and the Son made together. This mercy is not going to be abandoned. He went all the way through with all that he had to do so that he could sit down at the end knowing it's been accomplished. And as he's on this side of the cross, knowing he's got to go through it, he could look through to the other side and see there's a joy. There's a joy set before him, right? That all the shame that he had to endure, it wasn't for naught. It was a very high price. But what he accomplished was far, far greater. And so, in going to the Word, in having the grander picture here, you can see with a greater understanding than even the wise man Ethan could see how God is faithful. And he knew he was faithful, but he didn't understand how it was all shaking out. So you may be in times of your life where you don't understand what God is doing. Don't get angry with God. That's not the mature response. That's the toddler response, right? Remember who he is. Remember what he's capable of, and go to his word, particularly on the New Testament, and see in the grand scheme, are you kept? Are you guarded? Are you cared for? Yes, those things are all true. And so even if you're going through difficulty and adversity, did Jesus also mention that there would be some adversity here? Yeah, he promised it. In this world you shall have tribulation. We love our shalls. That's not one we tend to focus on. But this is true, right? This is not your home. This is a passing through, right? This is like the train station. We're getting ready for the better destination. And there'll be heartache here, but he doesn't change. His promises doesn't change. His character doesn't change. And so when you're going through it, keep singing. Keep praising him. Keep being reminded of the confidences that you had in him. You were making, at one point in your life, you're going to be at a mountaintop experience. You're going to be boasting and bragging about God. That's great. Keep doing that when you're in the low part. And then remind yourself, why were you able to brag that? Because the evidences behind it, his word, and who he is, and what he's capable of, those things don't change. And so sometimes you can't say, Lord, I don't understand it. Okay. You could ask how long. He may not give you an answer. Right? His timing is perfect. His timing is much bigger than yours. Lord, remember that I'm but dust. Lord, that my time is short. Is there a humility in that? That's a very different response than, Lord, fix it. Right? That's something you say to an employee, right? God is not your employee, right? Lord, I don't understand what all's going on, but I know that you're good. I know that you're gracious. I know that you're full of loving kindness. I know that you haven't abandoned me. I know that your covenant endures. And so, Lord, just remember that I'm weak. I need grace for today. Help me through today. And Lord, help me to trust you with the bigger things. Thank y'all for your good attention.